introduction. Thanks, Mark. We did share that first year on Zoom. Those are great memories. So, Aric, I'm a real alcoholic. I'm grateful and honored to be standing here for you this evening to hopefully carry a message of experience, strength, and hope for the newcomer, just like I was when I came in. I come from a background of Irish and Native American. Something about those genes, I guess. So to honor the Native side, I walk a spiritual way of life called our Red Road. An elder told me to always bring an eagle feather along with my big book and a piece of sage. And the reason they told me to keep an eagle feather on me is because I can't tell a lie when I'm holding an eagle feather. So I'm going to put that there to keep me honest. First time I ever did this, one of our respected elder looked at me and said, "You better hold on to that extra tight." Because we're alcoholics, we like to exaggerate stuff. So I was told I was going to do this about a year ago. Boy, I've been overthinking that since. It would have been nice to know maybe a month or so. Anyway, I've given this lead 1,000 times in my head in the last year, and I hope some of that comes out. What I'd like to start with, we alcoholics are weird characters, man. And if anyone has a doubt or questioning if they're an alcoholic, I've got a few things I'd like to share that, thanks, man. Some collective little tidbits. You might be an alcoholic if. I'm not going to mention names, of course. But yes, we know these people, and these are personal stories from people that we know and love. So, you might be an alcoholic if you hide in the ceiling of a Taco Bell till after hours to rob the cash register. Yep. So, as a Native American, we do a Native event called a powwow, which is a dance celebration that lasts a few days. So, you show up for a 3-day powwow. You get drunk after the first day. You pass out in Ohio and end up in North Dakota, missing the last 2 days of the powwow. You might be an alcoholic, right? You get pulled over at 6 a.m., driving to the liquor store in a nightgown. An alcoholic. You go on vacation to make sure you take enough for bail. Might be an alcoholic. You go to the ER and the guard says, "Hey, aren't you the guy I had sent to jail last night?" Might be an alcoholic. You call in sick for work to keep drinking, but you forgot you called in and come in at noon anyway. That was mine. I'll take that one. That was mine. Yeah. I love this next one. Accidentally shave off your eyebrows trying to make them look fancy to impress the chicks when you go into treatment the next day. Right? There's always the one from Joe and Charlie they share. You get sunburnt on the roof of your mouth. Like that. One of our guys bought a bulldozer in a blackout. That's a real one. That's a real one. You look so rough from getting out of jail with a male prostitute that no cab driver will pick you up. Might be Anyway, we could go on and on with those, right? But I know if you guys were like me when you first came in, you're thinking, well, I don't do those things. What makes you think I'm an alcoholic? So, thankfully, I've got this wonderful piece of literature that changed my entire life that describes us. We don't have a definition. We have a description of an alcoholic. And that's summarized in the first paragraph of We Agnostics. And that says, if when I entirely want to, I'm entirely honest, I can't quit entirely. Right. If I honestly want to, I can't quit entirely. That means I wake up in the morning, I dump out the liquor, and I say, I don't want it, I'm not going to do it, I want to quit, and I want it with all my might, and I can't quit. Or if when drinking I have little control over the amount I take, I'm probably an alcoholic. So I can take away all those little war stories that we love to share and laugh at. I could take those away, and I can find myself in that paragraph of being an alcoholic. What it goes on to tell me is that I'm suffering from an illness that only a spiritual experience will conquer. You see? I started Native American living at the age of 16 and I thought I was living a spiritual way of life, but it wasn't enough to keep me away from a drink. It just wasn't. And I was doing things that were very spiritual, you know. But I wasn't enlarging and perfecting my spiritual life like the book tells me to do. And that's through self-sacrifice and working with others. And it wasn't until I found this program that I was able to find a real purpose in my life that I can live every day. So that's my little tangent, I guess. I grew up in a little town called Morse Hill, Indiana. It's over that way. Population 640 last time I checked. It's about yay big. It's got a post office. Of course, a liquor store. And I'll be darned, they do have an AA meeting there, but I didn't know that until years later. So I grew up in the 80s. My first 9 years of my life was in the 80s. So we had Thundercats and G.I. Joes and He-Man and played in the woods a lot. We rode our bicycles around and we liked to soup those up, modify them, paint them, you know, do all the cool stuff, you know. Mom and Dad, they drank. They drank, and it led to a lot of bad things, arguments. My parents were the kind of people that just wouldn't leave an argument alone. They followed each other in and out of the house to make the point heard, you know. And that went on pretty late at night, so as a kid I was exposed to that kind of stuff. And I knew that stuff got worse when the poker parties were around and the whiskey came out, you know what I mean? So fear, you know, it kept me sober away from that stuff for a while. Had my first drink of liquor approximately age 13. Trailer court uptown in Morse Hill. Evidently it was Goldschlager, right? So we were hanging out, nobody watching us. My friend says, hey, you want to try this? I'm like, what is it? It's liquor. Like, yeah, but why's it got stuff in it? Oh, that's gold flakes. It's fancy. Okay, whatever. So yeah, we drank a little bit. And the next thing I remember from that, we were chucking ice balls at semis going down the highway. One of those truckers left his window down. It went inside his window. So we took off screaming and running. And we hide out in the woods behind the American Legion during a turkey shoot, evidently, because we heard shotguns going off. Oh, man. Okay, so that was my first exposure to alcohol. I'm not one of those that got hooked on it right away, you know, because I had that experience of home, you know, being bad when that stuff was around. It terrified me, you know what I mean? So I did stay away from that. Trauma, early age trauma. I think every alcoholic I talk to and I get to talk to has some trauma that we had to heal through, you know. So I had a dose of that at the age of 13. My brother was killed with a gunshot wound to the head at 3 a.m. That's when my family found out. There was a lot of trauma and crying and screaming, as you can imagine, and I was woken up from a dead sleep during that incident. And that haunted me, right? I was wounded emotionally, mentally, and spiritually from that event, and I had no tools to even know what to do about that. I was just confused, I guess. They moved me schools after 8th grade to Milan. Who's seen the movie Hoosiers? 1954 champions? There you go, there you go, right. Yeah. I went to high school at Milan, Indiana, and I was like a duck out of water, man. I was a nerdy kid that wore khakis and like polo shirts, and I walked into there not knowing anyone. And you know, all of my childhood, I felt that just I can't fit in. I don't know how to feel or who to be, and just uncomfortable. And AA taught me that's a spiritual malady, you know, a spiritual sickness inside of myself that I didn't know I had, you know. So I was one of those teens that floated around in my freshman year trying to find my way or whatever, and then a group of kids that they called alternative back then adopted me into their clique, you know. So we started wearing the baggy jean coats and the Vans, you know, tennis shoes, and I got to listen to Smashing Pumpkins and Korn and, you know, all the awesome 90s bands that we love. I could go on and on. So, yeah, I felt like I was part of something. So I was that skater punk dude, right? With the rollerblades and the skateboard and all that and the metal music. Yeah. So, pot's part of my story. That's just is what it is. At age 16, that was my entrance into manhood, you know, getting to share that experience with my dad. And, you know, I'm not, like I said, we're in AA, Singleness of Purpose. I won't go into that a whole lot, but yeah, that's where I was introduced to feeling comfort, you know, from a drug. And, well, within a year or two, that led to vodka, you know. It's interesting how that first one that we loved ends up being the last one that we hated, you know. Yeah, so about age 17, went to a party late at night, and they were passing around the vodka, and a girl I was quite fond of with at the time there, she gets in the freezer and just gives me the rest of it and says, "Here you go," you know. Learned to like a girl like that, I guess. But normal people don't keep that in the back of their trunk and carry it around with them until it's needed, you know. So anyway, my teenage years were spent doing the native culture, the native powwows, but at the same time I went to rock concerts like crazy. Loved them to death, you know. But I still, in the back of my mind, I knew that that liquor was bad, you know, and it was going to bite me hard because I saw what it did to my parents, you know. So, into my mid-20s, I met a lady from the Rosewood Sioux Reservation. I got married. She had stepkids. So, a lot of kids my age were in their roaring 20s of parties and doing all that. No, I was the dad with a house and 3 stepkids and a wife and the job, and got a really cool career, man, as a stockbroker for Citibank, you know. We were married for about 6 years and ended up losing that house and that property. And I knew there was something waiting for me, you know. You know in Bill's story where it says fear sobered him a little bit? Yeah, that was a decade for me. You know, I was able to stay sober with use of other stuff. I avoided the booze, you know. But I remember the day that I turned my life over to liquor. I remember it just clears yesterday. My kids were taken by their mother out of state to who knows where. To this day, I don't know where they're at. And I didn't know when I was going to see them again. So it's like a country song, man. I lost the house, I lost the wife, I lost the kids. I had to keep the job because, you know, got to keep drinking, you know. So we had to evict that property. And I get to the house, and well, stopped at the liquor store, and I didn't know what I liked to drink at the time. They had Starbucks liqueur. Oh, horrible. Dude, it's black coffee with liquor in it. Oh. Yeah. So I get to the house, you know, and I'm like, well, I don't like the taste of it, but feeling pretty good. I chug it, and I commence to drag all the furniture out of that house to a bonfire and set her on fire, boys. We're getting her done. From that day forward, I was able to have an experience with alcohol. You know those 9-step promises that we read? Yeah, that happened for me in liquor. It did that day. So I commenced to go on that journey through the bottle, man. Mine lasted 13 years. It started off before work, you know. You got a little just to get you through to the first break or lunch, and then you needed at lunch. And then you can't wait to get after work, you know, because we're going to Newport, we're going to Cincinnati, and we're going clubbing, you know. I didn't have the kids or the wife to hold me responsible, so she was tearing it loose. You know. That was my late 20s, early 30s. That started out fun. It ended not fun at all. Well, like we all do, we go live with mom and dad, you know. And I was one of those guys that took advantage of that situation till the end, you know. So I could paint you a picture of how I'm qualified as an alcoholic. I think I did a good job with that. You know, I am one of you, absolutely. I commenced to drink that way, and it just like it does, man, it progressively gets worse. At the end there, it was calling in sick to stay home drunk. In reality, I worked 6 months out of the year and got paid for the whole year with FMLA time, you know, because I was so deep in the bottle. Basically, my alcoholism, man, it turns blessings into burdens and gifts into curses. That's what it did. You know, I needed a half a pint to a pint just to get the kids on the bus and up in the morning so I can go to work, you know. I was the guy drinking shooters behind the call center by a dumpster, you know, just to get through the first break or lunch. So basically, at the end of 2018, I'll pick up there. That's a good starting point, you know. That was my first suicide attempt. And it was intervened upon by a friend that didn't know I was having that big of problems. They just decided to pay me a visit, you know. But they knew I needed help. Divine intervention, I guess, is a good word for that. So I went to detox at CMHC, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, you know. And I was there for 3 days. I put the kids with some relatives. And boy, I had those doctors convinced I'm good. 3 days, I got to get out of here. I got kids to take care of and a job to do, you know. And so I AMA'd out of there. Went to the girlfriend's house and gave me a beer. That's how that worked out, you know. And looking back, see, AA and these steps in recovery, they really have you look at your life and see patterns on how it relates to my alcoholism. Because I know that came first, you know, the alcoholism. I treated relationships like booze. Pop the top, get all you can out of it, and throw that sucker away. On to the next one, you know. So I treated people that way. I did. That's how I was, you know. So 2018, I'm still drinking pretty hard. Suicide attempt at the end of 2018, and then I'm checking into that detox. I get out, and I'm desperate at this point. I'm hurting, you know, and I'm sitting at a call center looking at my computer, wanting to quit, knowing I need to quit, and I can't quit, but I need it. So I grew up with people that were in AA that were just like you guys, and they knew how to stay sober, and they had very productive lives. Because, like I said, around native spirituality, it's obviously a problem, but they knew how to stay sober through AA. So I Googled it. I said, you know, AA, Greensburg, Indiana. And it threw up a phone number. Evidently, that's that district phone that we get service duties to carry around, you know. And I'll be darned if a guy didn't answer that phone, and I'm crying at my desk, you know. Oh, I gotta quit, man, I can't stop, I don't want to stop, man, you know. And he says, hey, can you make it to a meeting tonight uptown at the church? So I think I can. He says, okay, I'll meet you there, I'll shake your hand. I'll mention his name, Don. And every time I see Don, I tell him, thank you for answering that phone. You know, because he did. And it's so funny. He carried that district phone for well over 8 months to 6 months or something. He tells the story better. He gets flooded with marketing and spam and prank calls and all the just ridiculous part. And he was able to help. He was carrying that to help one person, you know. So I go to AA in 2019, knowing I need to quit. And so I went to that basement of the church there in Greensburg, and you guys scared the hell out of me. I left that meeting and went straight to the liquor store, because that's all I knew. That's all I knew. I said, man, y'all are talking about love me till I love myself, and find the spirituality and praying and God. Phyllis was in that meeting, now that I look. Yeah, she was. I don't remember much from that first meeting, but I do remember we're going to love you till you love yourself, and I was like, weird. What does that even mean? So, yeah, I went to the liquor store, and I still went back. I still went back to the meetings because, see, you guys show me how to love somebody. I learned how to love people in AA. You guys opened your arms up to me every time I screwed up, you know. 2019 was my rubber ball year, man. Ping-ponging in and out of these doors, trying to find something, you know. From every relapse I ever had was a lesson. I stayed sober for about 4 weeks, yeah. And that was about in February of 2019. And that was with a sponsor, you know, working the steps. my sponsor, he took me through those steps, and the first time I got to step 3, and we went to this cool little church out by Oldenburg. And we hit my knees, and I said the 3rd step prayer, but, well, I didn't do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12. And guess what happened? Flop. Hard at it again, you know. So every time that I relapsed, there was a lesson there. So that's a very valuable lesson I carry to this day. If I'm going to start the work, I'm going to go all the way through. If I stop in the middle, I end up sick, and I stay sick. Doesn't mean I get drunk again, but I could stay real sick, you know. Yeah, so 2019, I managed to put together 4 months. And wouldn't you know, I drank again. So believe it or not, my one sponsor, he wasn't doing it good enough. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. So I had to go get another one. He'd do it my way. Yeah, right. Oh, I love it. Yeah, so he kept telling me, you should probably go to treatment. I said, no, I'm too busy. I got kids, I got the job, I got this relationship I'm trying to work on, you know, whatever. Yeah. I got beat down enough until I did go. At the end of 2019 was the 2nd suicide attempt. And you guys remember seeing me in 2019? I walked in those rooms a beaten man. Oh, it's horrible. Full of self-pity and loathing and shame and anger and hatred and all those just horrible things. So I went to Bridges of Hope in Anderson, Indiana, and went for 28 days. My mom, bless her heart, she moved in, went to the house and watched the kids for those 28 days. And I got out desperate. In treatment, they taught me a lot of cool stuff, you know, about alcoholism and about programs and about these self-help things that didn't seem to work for a guy like me. But they were good ideas. But see, I was in here enough in 2019, I knew what worked. So I got out of treatment and I just started listening. They said, get to a meeting, 90 meetings in 90 days. That's not in here, but I'll take that suggestion. You know, that did work. It absolutely worked. So between the meetings and step work, great sponsorship. After around 90 days, we had gotten past step 7 and the obsession to drink was lifted from my being. I hope you guys don't hear, if you don't hear anything from my story, I hope you hear that. If you heard that, I'll say it again. The obsession to drink was lifted from my mind. And for an alcoholic at my level that had to have a drink every day, that's a miracle just in that statement, you know. My hope and my prayer is that I can reach out to a newcomer who's having some hard times with it and that obsession's still on you. Because I was the guy that went to a lot of meetings and I still got drunk. You know, I did the spirituality and the prayer. I was praying on my knees every morning and I still got drunk. Why? What's not working? What's wrong with me? Right. I was given the 3-part solution to a 3-part disease. And that's recovery, unity, and service. And that's for the 3-part disease I have, physical, mental, and spiritual. If I'm doing a little bit of those and I'm living in all 3 pieces of the triangle every day, I'm placed right in the center of protectedness, you know. So I said how those 9th step promises came true in my life with the liquor. The step 10 promises didn't do that for me, right? And when I truly dive into this program, and I have such a passion for it because it saved me, and I watch it save lives every day. Those 10-step promises are unique and powerful, you know. So I did get sober during COVID, which was an interesting time, you know, because I just got out of treatment. They're telling me 90 meetings in 90 days. How am I going to do this thing, you know? Yeah, so I started a Facebook group. I used to do that video chat on Facebook, and it only allowed like 10 people on there at a time. And then a week later, they launched this Zoom thing. So that was pretty cool. And I carried you guys around in my pocket for a whole year. At my son's sports games, after work, before work. Yeah, it was a daily thing because I know I needed something. So I got to the end of that year in 2020 and I started sponsoring people. And that's an awesome experience, it really is. You get to sit with somebody and share their life getting better. And I finally found something in my life my soul's been searching for, and that's connected to power. And whether that's through our fellowship or these steps or helping somebody, we find power. That's what it's about. How much time I got left on this thing?
Halfway.
Halfway. No, and it's really cool that I get to do stuff like this now, you know. I've had people that have guided me with, at desperate times, you know, the thing of sitting down with a guy and going through the steps with them and watching a spark light up in their soul, you know, and watching, it may not change externally for us at first, like a lot of money or a big house or a fancy car, but there's a light that comes on in a person's eyes and you can see their soul just light up, you know. I remember in a step 3 meeting, a gentleman sitting over here to my right, he gave me a concept I still carry to this day. Hands up, weapons down, he said. Yep, hands up, weapons down. I got nothing against this thing, you know. And through these steps in our program, I got a real answer and solution to what powerlessness looks like. You think I really chose to keep taking a drink over and over and over when I didn't honestly want to? You think that was a choice I had? No, it's way deeper than that. I don't have a choice in this thing. I came in here seeking the desperation of drowning men, and AA threw me a life preserver. It really did. Some cool things that happened to me in recovery, right? Because now it's like I'm into that what happened phase, you know. In 2020, I got to see a full recovery-based funeral. I knew a couple that was sober a couple decades, and their daughter had just overdosed. And there were probably 300 or 400 people in recovery, celebrating her life. Not crying and mourning and shame, but celebrating her life. Cool experience. Never seen anything like that before, you know. I got to experience our cool fish fries in St. Maurice. That is my home group. I forgot to mention that. St. Maurice, Indiana. It's east of Greensburg. We meet on Tuesday nights at 7:30. We got the best candy, so if you guys want to show up, just saying. No, just recently, one of the guys I really respected and look up to, because I know he got sober when I was like 1 year old. I heard him sharing with somebody early in recovery about being on a fishing trip. And he heard somebody memorize how it works. And somehow that caught my attention. Said, okay, so if I memorize this how it works thing, I'll give his respect, you know. So I did. I did challenge myself to do that. So anyway, 3 years go by and I find me and a sponsor and my wonderful girlfriend Christina, we're fishing on this pond in beautiful property, you know. See, you look at these old timers and it's like they're out of reach kind of thing. You put them on a pedestal or something and it's like, I'll never be able to relate to. And here I am, man, I'm fishing on his fishing bank, catching fish, you know. The first 2 years I have 4 years and 7 months. I did forget to mention my clean date. That's January 12th of 2020. Yeah. So the first 2 years of recovery was all about chasing this recovery like I did my booze, you know. And I got in touch with Power and I was working with sponsors really quickly within that first year. And now I get to do cool stuff like spend the district's money to buy a cool gift basket for this event, right? that hopefully some new see, like I get to spend somebody else's money on cool stuff, you know? Yeah. And then I get to act as a GSR for St. Maurice. That's a really cool experience. I'm telling you, nothing has touched my life more than these steps of AA and the 164 pages. Somebody asked me why I'm passionate about the book one time. I told him it's not about the words on the page, it's the experience I have with it that changed me and continues to do so. So if you're an alcoholic that wants to get over it, we have the solution for you. You know. I think I pretty much talked out. Yeah. That's what it's like today for me, you know. AA gives me a structured spiritual life. I get up in the morning, I do our step 11 disciplines, I hit my knees, I do my morning meditation, and then as my day goes on, there's not one day in my life I don't speak to a recovered alcoholic or a recovering alcoholic. That's just how this program is working for me, you know. And the 10th step disciplines, yeah, as I go through the day, I pause when agitated. That could be a little challenging. But we do have a design of living that works, a design for living that works. I want to give my sponsor kudos. That man saved my life. I won't mention names because we're anonymous. It's not about who we are or our name, it's just about what we're doing and being a part of the whole. You know? I came to him a wounded, broken man, and he offered me a job and said, come spend time with us. You know, and just before this lead, you know, his wife looks at me and says, don't forget to breathe. You know, I just look around the room, man. One of the most inspirational pieces of information that a person told me was right out of treatment. And I needed humbled at that time, I really did. I'm reading how it works, because I'm going to be the guy that's going to memorize this thing, right? And she looks at me and says, it's not just what you read, it's what you do with those words. And I'm like, ooh, right in the gut. But she was right. And that drove me to work harder on these steps in this program. You know, I mean, it's so cool that I can look around this room and you guys are a family to me. You really are. You know, like I told you, I lost my brother at age 13, but I can't even count how many people in this room I can call brother and sister now. You know? I love you guys. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. That's what I got. Thank you.